Worship. It's a word that's not very common outside the context of church or Sunday school. So if you're not familiar with going to church or being around church people, it might be a word that's a little bit hard to understand. But even though it's more common to hear around church, it can still be a tricky word or concept to try and figure out. You might hear someone say, well, it's time for worship, or thanks for joining us for worship today, or hear someone talking about worship service. But what does all of that mean? What do we mean when we say worship? And to help us figure this out, we're going to jump right into the Bible, into a story that comes from the book of John. Now in this story, Jesus is having a conversation with a woman, and she's asking him questions about how people should pray or how they should serve God. Jesus answers her question by making a statement about who God is and how we should worship him. Now again, this is from the book of John, chapter 4, verses 23 and 24. Jesus said this, "But a new time is coming. In fact, it's already here. True worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. They are the kind of worshipers the Father is looking for. God is spirit. His worshipers must worship him in spirit and in truth." Now we're going to take a look at the specific word worship in just a minute. But first, take a look at what Jesus said here. He said we should worship in spirit and in truth. So there's two aspects to this. There's the side of it that's the purpose behind it, the attitude or the spirit of what we're doing. And then there's the reality of it, the truth or actions that result from our attitude. Now hang on to that for just a minute. We'll come back to it. Let's veer off to the side for just a sec. The Bible, of course, was written a really long time ago. So long ago, in fact, that English wasn't even a language yet. So when the Bible was first written down, it was written down in a different language. The part of the Bible where this story comes from was written in a language called Greek. Now in Greek, just like in English, there are words that mean mostly the same thing, but give us a little bit different way to look at stuff. For example, the words run and sprint basically mean the same thing, to move forward quickly. But if you say, well, I went for a run, it means something different than if you say, I sprinted towards the ice cream truck. So in Greek, there are a couple of different words that we use for worship. Now the first one is the word that Jesus uses here. It's the Greek word proskuneo, and it literally means to fall down or bow down in front of something or someone. The other main word that the Bible uses in some places is the Greek word latruo, and this word means to sacrifice or to serve something or someone. Now both of these words use actions to display a response to something or someone, whether it's bowing down or giving something up or serving in some way. So in the Bible, when we see the word worship, even when Jesus is talking here, the action that is happening is really important. Let's jump over to the book of Isaiah and take a look at one more passage to help us break this down a little bit more. This is Isaiah chapter 6 verses 1 through 8. And this is Isaiah talking as he says this. It goes like this. "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. He was seated on his throne. His long robe filled the temple. He was highly honored. Above him were seraphs. Each of them had 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, 2 wings they covered their feet, with 2 wings they were flying. They were calling to one another and they were saying, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord who rules over all. The whole earth is full of his glory. The sound of their voices caused the stone door frame to shake. The temple was filled with smoke. How terrible it is for me, I cried out. I'm about to be destroyed. My mouth speaks sinful words. I live among people who speak sinful words. Now I've seen the King with my own eyes. He is the Lord who rules over all. A seraph flew over to me. He was holding a hot coal. He'd used tongs to take it from the altar. He touched my mouth with a coal. He said, This has touched your lips. Your guilt has been taken away. Your sin has been paid for. Then I heard the voice of the Lord. He said, Who will I send? Who will go for us? I said, Here I am. Send me. Now again, this is the prophet Isaiah telling us this story, and he had this vision, and he realized who was on the throne in front of him. Isaiah realized that God was there, and Isaiah was not worthy to be in God's presence. Then God cleansed Isaiah and allowed him to be there. He said, Your guilt has been taken away. So Isaiah had this moment where he recognized who God was, and he recognized what God had done. And Isaiah had to respond to this situation. His attitude and then his actions had this outward and visible response to what he had realized. His attitude was, whoa, God is awesome, and I'm not nearly awesome enough to be here right now. And then when God called for someone to step up, Isaiah's action was to step up and to say, it's me, I'm here, I'll do whatever you need me to do. And in this story, it wasn't just Isaiah who gave a response. We see the angels calling out, verbally out loud, proclaiming who God is and what he's done. And that's what worship is. When we worship, our attitude and our actions should be an outward and visible response to who God is and what he's done. We'll talk more about what that looks like specifically in the next video.